6 lessons, learnings, and tips for your first 50k ultramarathon. It's been about 2 weeks since I did my my first 50k, and it's incredible. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Look at this. It's been a humbling experience. It's been an overwhelming experience. It's been something which, now that I've reflected upon, I'm very proud of it, right? And I think anyone that does something like this should be. And I want to go through probably as briefly as possible and really just break down some of the things that I've taken away from it, some of the lessons, some of the learnings and tips. I guess altogether they are lessons, learnings and tips, and I can only know them now. But at the same time, if you're thinking of doing your first ultramarathon, in this case a 50k, or maybe you're just thinking of getting into running in general, a lot of this will apply. It applies more for the 50k though, and I want to share with you. And I'm here to say that, you know, this is coming from someone fresh from doing their first 50k. If you don't have the context, I trained for 28 weeks to do this. It was originally meant to be 16 weeks for the Surf Coast Century 50k here for 2021 in Australia, and originally it was meant to be a 16-week training plan, but you know, here in Melbourne, Australia, we had some lockdowns and it got pushed out twice. It went all the way over. It was meant to be 11th of September, went to 23rd of October, then it was pushed to the 4th of December, which meant training was basically double. That in itself was a grind, and it was something which I didn't realize at the point, but it worked out a lot better for me, but it was frustrating at the time. Anyway, we'll get to that shortly. So let's jump into the 6 lessons, learnings, and tips for your first 50k ultramarathon. Let's do it. Now, sorry, one more thing. I just want to clarify that, of course, all these lessons, learnings are coming from my own personal experience, but I'm here to share them to hopefully encourage you and give you some understanding and insight, and maybe they will help you. But once again, this won't be exactly what you need, but it's exactly what I've taken away, and if I was doing this again, of what I would need to hear. So number 1, and I don't want to beat around the bush with this, I just want to get it out there and be very frank, and that is the only thing stopping you is you. Get a plan, manage the plan with steps and adjustments, trust the plan, trust the process, and just manage with feel. I think if I could break it down, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, you have a goal, you set the steps in motion, you set the steps it's going to take to get you to where you want to be. That's a plan, right? And you manage the plan with adjustments, with steps as things come and change. For me, it was going to be 16 weeks and I had to adjust it to 28 weeks. I had to adjust it twice. And you have to go with the flow of those things. You have to manage the feel, how you're feeling, what makes sense, take rest a bit more, or does it make sense to, and it did at the point in time, we basically took 2 weeks off middle of the training plan, just dropped it right down to just have a mental reset. And I think that's what it comes down to. If you've got a plan, take that plan, work with the plan, but trust the plan and trust the process. You have to. Don't doubt it. It's there for a reason. So that's lesson, learning, and tip number 1 is the only thing stopping you is you. So just go through the plan and make it happen. Number 2, nutrition. And I think this one can be very broad. It's also, I'm probably going to be a little vague here, but you have to find what works for you. And obviously that's why you do training. Like you have 16, 20, however many weeks it is of training that you're doing, you need to test out and see what works for you with nutrition. For me, originally I used to have lollies, or I used to have muesli bars, and I realized that wasn't working for me. What did work for me is bananas. Bananas have been the best thing for me. Having a banana before a long run, having a banana during a long run, whether it's at an hour mark, if it's a 3-hour long, or halfway mark, if it's a 3-hour run. And the other thing that started to work really, really well for me was certain different snacks. You need to find what works for you, but obviously keeping fluids up, tailwind, and also was these little wallaby snacks, which is a bit of dark chocolate coated across some chia seeds and some nuts and berries and things, and they were really, really good. Not having a lot of them, just small little chunks about this big. And the other one was actually having avocado sandwiches or avocado rolls and marmalade orange rolls or sandwiches as well. They worked a charm. Not big amounts, just, you know, take a sandwich or take a roll and half it, and then just have it at the, you know, sequential points, or dedicated nutrition points through those long runs. And that's what the training's for, is to test when you're going to have that nutrition. So really it comes down to find what works for you, test it and apply it and stick with it. There's a nice little motto, nothing new on race day. Number 3 is come prepared, but be ready for anything. And I know it's a little cliche, but at the end of the day, you know, if you're doing your first ultra marathon, if you're doing a 50K, which is usually your first ultra, and this applies for whether you're doing your first marathon, first half marathon, first 10K, 5K, all that jazz, is there's 2 things that you want to focus on. And that is remove any pressure and remove any expectation. If you do that, then you can be ready for anything. And at the end of the day, a lot of the time, doing these first kind of experiences, whether it's a first race, first run, first marathon, first ultra, is go in with the expectation to you just want to finish. Now, sometimes that means you won't. You know, there will be DNFs, did not finish, and that's okay. But if you can remove as much as possible the pressure and expectation, it's going to make the run so much more fun and enjoyable. The second time you do it, well, maybe you can start to spice things up, set a goal, a time, or whatever. But I've realized going into that, not having necessarily a huge goal or any pressure, I enjoyed the run so much. I didn't have to worry about pressure of time. I didn't have to worry about expectations of proving anything to anyone but myself. And that was just to get it done. And I got it done. And I loved it, I enjoyed it, and I pulled out great because I didn't have to worry about, I need to get this certain time or I need to push harder. Of course, now I think I probably could have pushed harder, but once again, if I had, I would not have enjoyed it as much. So come prepared, know what you need to do for the run to get it done, but be ready for anything because things will change and be willing to adjust, and that's part of it. And once again, comes back to the training as well. Number 4, know your why and understand it. And this will keep you accountable. When it comes to these kind of training plans, unless you've got a coach, unless you've got someone you're doing it with, you've got to keep yourself accountable. And I think understanding your why is going to be the best thing to enable you to stay accountable and to keep on track and to keep progressing on. Whether it is in the long runs when you are getting into those mental grinds and they're just not doing it for you. You need to understand, well, why are you doing this? Understand that, and you can help get yourself back on track, get yourself back on the end game and the light at the end of the tunnel, because you will need that through the training and you will need that for race day. So understand it, and this will keep you accountable. Number 5, track your progress, and it's important that you can visualize the progress and do point in time reflections and check-ins. For me, you know, if anyone's watched my progress over my training plan, I did a checkpoint every week of just seeing the progress that I've done to date, of how far I've come, what I've accomplished this week, and what was working, what didn't. And it's not there to show you what you haven't done, it's there to show you what you have done and to help see how things are changing, where you started from, what was your baseline, how have you grown, how's your heart rate averaging better, how much elevation have you done, can you see maybe you need more elevation. You can start to use it as a bouncing board and a way to pulse check to see what needs to change, what can you be doing, but also it's more so there to remind you of how far you've come and that you're getting it done. Because remember, the first one that I said to you was the only thing stopping you is you. So having something there that's pointing all in the right direction of saying, hey, you're doing a good job, that's what you want. So track your progress however you can, whether it's on a Google Sheet or in an app or visualize it. However, I'm more than happy to have a conversation about this. If people want help, you can ask me in the comments below. That's super important, and it really worked for me. If you want to check out my one, there is a link below and you can see what I did, what that dashboard looks like, and I updated it weekly and things like that. So yeah, check it out. Number 6, the final one. It can be a little cliche and we hear it a lot of the time, but now having finished the training and done the 50K, I've realized that it's not about the destination, but the journey. And the reason I say that is because now that I reflect on it, the run was actually easier than the training itself. The run was, it took me 8 hours and 56 minutes. But it was a good 8 hours and 56 minutes. It won't always be this way, and I get that, I understand that. It won't always be that good, but it did work out in this case. And 2 weeks later, I just did a 15K this morning at the time of filming this, and that 15K was more mentally draining, more mentally hard to push through than doing the 50K. It just was tiring, it was hard. And that's the beauty of the run. Each run is different. Each run will bring its set of challenges. And I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to, the 50K, it's the celebration. It's what you've worked up to. It's not about getting out there and trying to set records. Maybe you are. But at the end of the day, if it's your first time, I think the big journey, the big accomplishment is the 28 weeks or the 20 weeks or the 16 weeks or however long you've been training for. It's to basically celebrate that because you've done all that, you can now go do this. And then you can flex and say, hey, I've done 50K. And that's really what it's about, right? Because you want to be able to stand strong with pride and say, I've done 50K and you've got a medal. And that's like with any accomplishment that we do, whether we're going through high school, you want to get certain grades, whether you're trying to get a job, or maybe you're trying to earn and save for something and you get your first house, or maybe it is just something small, but to you it's big. And that's what it's all about. It's about the journey to that destination. And then you get to celebrate that, and then you get to reflect on it and look to the next thing that you're chasing. So that's my 6 lessons, learnings, and tips for your first 50K ultra. And for me, it's been life-changing. It's been great. It's been a humbling experience, a great experience, and it's been a huge confidence boost. Just with running, and just a newfound, I don't care what other people think when I'm running kind of thing, because hey, I've done 50K, I got nothing to prove to anyone else. So it is really beautiful in that sense. And this still applies whether you're doing 1K, 10K, 5K, half marathon, marathon, or whatever. And I want to encourage you, whatever it is that you're doing, it really comes down to number one, is the only thing stopping you is you. Appreciate being here. If you enjoyed this video, if you've got some of your own tips, or maybe you've got some comments, chuck it down in the comments below. Let's continue the conversation. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, do the whole shebang, and hustle. Ciao.